Raima Mohammed, are you ready? Hello?
Affirmed.
Is
Yes,
she Raima, are you ready?
yes, I'm ready. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. I don't know what the problem is with my phone because I don't get you clearly, but we shall be we are going to begin. And I think you know that the first speaker is going to have 6 minutes. The others are going to have 5 minutes.
Okay, so I'm still audible, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh no, can I just reconnect a bit? My network has gotten a bit faulty. Sorry, inconvenience. Okay, I'm now back. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I think I'm going to begin. I'm going to start my speech. My name is Raima Muhammad. I'll take my PIs after the fourth minute. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel. What is the goal of a developing country? A. To stabilize the country after damage from colonialism. B. To lift people from poverty. C. To decrease unemployment rates. Now, why does the government actually offer free education? 1. To reduce fracture inequality. What do you mean by fracture inequality and how does it come about? This is basically inequality between the classes of people in society where we see the rich have easy access to education and the poor can't even access what to study from. So basically the government basically finances in the sense that it provides more education to the poor to narrow the gap and enables social mobility. With social mobility is to move from one class to another, the power of a poor to move from one class to another. Now, what does this model of BVET look like? It looks like business, technical, vocational education, and training. It looks like the government financing free studies for this. Now, what do you think USA looks like at our side of the house? It looks like biology, chemistry, science, basically the normal school which needs a university certificate to actually get a job. That's what it looks like in this debate today. Now, our stance in this debate today is to abandon USE fully for BEVT, and the debate takes place in a developing country, Uganda to be specific. Now, three major things we're going to base on in our case today. One, poor education system in Uganda, which requires a lot of financing. Two, poverty. And three, the success levels of this model. Now, moving on to our first one, which is poor education system in Uganda, which requires a lot of funding. What do you mean by this? The fact that USE includes biology, chemistry, and all those things. So basically, it's actually comprising of theory and practicalities work. So basically, when you start teaching someone biology in USE, you also have to include the practical part of the chemicals and all that they use. So basically, we have to look and put into account that Uganda is a developing country. Uganda can't even finance itself, even if yes, someone might say they get let me say financing from outside countries, but basically those can't amount to the strain that you'd be putting on the country to finance this. So now, when you and the fact that actually we are a developing country, we can't finance this USE very well. It actually makes it harder for these students actually get successful in it because we are actually denying them one side. Okay, we be like we're giving them only one side of the education when this education has two sides. It has two sides. It has a side of practical and it has a side of like let me say technical of theory things like the side of we see biology and the side of like the practical biology part. So basically the child can't even develop themselves well. But on secondly, we have poverty. Now, majority of people in Uganda actually below the poverty line. This means they can't even live on a dollar. They live less than on a dollar in a day. That means they can't afford tuition. So basically, they just come and they like opt for USE. But notice, USE has a curriculum that supports university. What do we mean by this? These students, after going through the USE, they need to go to university, but they are below the poverty line. They can't afford the university. So it becomes harder for them to actually extend in their studies to get certificates. But even if someone might come and say that the government will offer them scholarships, those scholarships aren't enough for the number of people who are suffering in these USE schools because they can't afford university. That's why we see most people in Uganda, after going for USE, they opt for other things because they can't really afford the university tuition. They have been taught things that need university tuition, but they can't really do them. And that's why we see most people who even go to university are people from private schools. That's why we see this very detrimental. Now, why do we say BVET is going to be more successful? It's going to actually be successful because, first of all, the areas Uganda is actually connected to, let me say, it's dominated by practical work. Like, in the sense that when these missionaries came to Uganda before, let me say, when they came to Uganda to like teach us all those things of theirs, all those white things, basically they were like basically they found practical work in Uganda. Like, let me give you an example. When someone goes to America, they find a lot of chemistry things, so it's easier for the person to adapt. Now here we have practical work which actually dominates. Two implications of this: a, development of skills is actually way better and faster because we have many people who are actually very good at this. We have many people who are actually very learned at this structure, which is easier for these people to develop when they go to BVT. Or you can actually get jobs easier. They are easier to find because they teach you business. You can easily start up your job with all the profound mechanisms very easier. Now, moving on to our second thing, which is financing BVET, is actually very easier. It's way burden and protected time. It's way less burden because given that we are a developing country, when you finance that and you actually give it requires a lot of funding because you're going to deal with two sectors. When you give BVET, actually the materials are actually even very found here. It's actually easier to actually finance this. And when you finance this, it actually proves a less burden of the government, it being a government of a developing countries. Now, at a point in time where we know that some people actually want to go to university, even though they do USE, we actually, as a policy, we would actually incentivize private schools to give these students from USE who want to actually pursue university scholarships. How they're going to reduce, we're going to actually pass a policy of, like, let me say, reducing their tax depending on how many children they take in, which would be a problem on the economy because less people even in these USE schools actually want to pursue this work. Basically, it will actually be easier. Now, moving on to why should the government actually attempt to fix USC? Because we have given you a very good solution and it takes too much money to actually solve it, which we don't have.
Time is
And
up.
what we to certify the
Time is
students
up,
on the
Raima.
ground
You have 15
university.
seconds to finish
I
your
rest my
submission.
case by saying that side proposition has won this debate because we vote for the development of Uganda as a whole. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are going to go to Agaba Lucy. Is Agaba Lucy here? Agaba Lucy, you're here?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Am I audible?
All right.
Am I?
Yes, you are. I can hear you.
Okay. Um, okay, I'll be starting my speech in three, two, one, go. Panel. This motion says this house believes that government should abandon universal secondary education financing in preference of free BTVET education for willing students. Three things in my speech. I'm going to go a little bit into contextualization, then I'll show you why our world is a better place to live in as I engage also in some rebuttals. So onto the first thing, contextualization. The affirmative team does not clearly define for us what exactly universal secondary education is, right? So universal secondary education, which was launched in 2007 to make secondary education more accessible, particularly with the increased number of children graduating from primary school as a result of the universal primary education, which was launched some years back in 1997. So among its aims is to instill and promote national unity and understanding of social and civic responsibilities. Secondly, then it's also there to rather one of its aims again is also to appreciate or create an appreciation of international relations and beneficial international cooperation. So in the motion, we are saying Team Affirmative is advocating for that total abandoning, meaning leaving it completely, right? But we say that why don't we stand for that tonight? We say that universal secondary education does have a significance in society. Why? Number one, we see that with quality of labor, rather we see that um, looking at the current job market in Uganda specifically, no matter where you go, yes, fine, we agree and we agree and accept that skills are required, but there is no workplace whereby you're going to go and advocate for a job or apply for a job without presenting at least a minimum of a senior certificate. I mean, it's the least requirement for academic qualification for any job application, let alone you having your skills. They also need for you to be able to account for some bit of civic responsibilities in society. And that's how we see how fundamental universal secondary education is. So for Team Affirmative to come and completely advocate for the total abandonment of this universal education is completely out of this debate tonight. They tell us that Uganda is rather under under vocational education. It's going to be more successful because Uganda is dominated by a practical work skill, right? And they tell us how in that side of the house that's promoting development of more skills and it's easier to get jobs. But Pano, what part is dominating most? I mean, that's why we're having lawyers, doctors, engineers, right? These are all people who do need some academic qualifications, not only skills. Yes, skills are important. We do not reject that, but we are saying the same way that these skills are important. You're supposed to have some practical knowledge, some theoretical knowledge, and this can only be obtained under universal secondary education. So we do not see how exactly Team Affirmative's case is really relevant in, creating a feasible world for us to live in. Moving on to our second point, argument, we see that the quality of labor with universal secondary education is of a higher stance of a higher quality. Why? We see that within under university secondary education, there is more theory, there is more both theory and practice, which they do concede to in their first speech, whereby she says where she talks about practical lessons as well, right? So we see that with universal secondary education, there is more quality of labor since we have the increase in number of people who are going through this universal education. Therefore, we're able to attain more people who are actually bringing substantive matter into the job sector, not people who are only containing skills, but know how to mitigate not only at a national level, but also at an international level, right? And cooperation. Next, we see that we need to understand, first of all, that much as, yes, the government has a responsibility to, to cater also for the less privileged. But here, that the motion says for the willing students, right? Those who are willing. So now, if at all, as Team Affirmative claims that they are creating a better Uganda, but now, okay, fine. Because in the motion we have willing students, right? So by abandoning or choosing to abandon completely universal secondary education, aren't they then also how can I say this? Like constraining people who have the option, who have the will to go for universal secondary universal secondary education. So when they come here and continue lying to us about how they are promoting in rather a better Uganda, that's just false acclamations of theirs. So moving on, panel, we see that in our world, we promote better quality of teachers and we are motivating them to give better quality education. Because remember, teaching is a noble job, right? And a noble cause. And from these teachers, are we able to attain like the greatest businessmen, the entrepreneurs in the country, the greatest lawyers, greatest, designers, because all of them have to learn from somewhere. And whom are they learning from? These teachers. Therefore, why is Team Affirmative's world not feasible enough? We see that
Your time
generally
is up.
government has a
Please
problem.
conclude your speech.
Okay, thank you. So as I conclude, we continue to tell you that our world is a more feasible place in that we're not only benefiting those who are less privileged, but equally those who are privileged enough to attain the universal secondary education, which in our world, we are making it even Uganda a better place to live in. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So the next speaker is Nimusima Tracy. Is Nimusima here? Raima, is Nimusima here? Nimusima, can you unmute yourself and speak?
Am I audible? Yeah, yes, I'm around.
Okay, so it's your floor, yeah?
Yeah,
But
if
you
you
need
have
to be
any
a
points
little
of this,
audible. I feel like your voice is faint, eh? So as soon as you
is
see
this
a
better?
timer, please begin, eh?
Okay. Few hours after the 3rd minute, I'm going to start my speech in.
Please start.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Am I audible now? Can someone confirm if they can hear me?
Tracy, you are audible.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, let us first analyze guys that actually consider going for this USC education. Firstly, they're mainly found in rural areas. What does this mean? They basically have no money, right? And secondly, rural areas, you mainly find people. The main thing you find people doing there is basically practical skills, right? Things like tailoring, carpentry, etc. Basically practical skills. What is our stance in this debate? Our stance in this debate brings you a policy that mainly caters for those people, right? Two things I'm going to do in this debate. First, give you a stakeholder analysis. I'm going to first rebut what we got from the previous speaker and then give you a stakeholder analysis and show you why we win this debate, right? Firstly, clarity. They come and tell us that from their first speech, they come and tell us that no, you're not going to go to a workplace and you present that BTVET certificate, right? But the fact that the state is actually promoting this policy, we feel that at a point in time it's actually taking over. Even this BTVET certificate will actually be applied so that these people actually get employment, right? Pano, understand that UCE has completely failed, right? Its children have the worst results. You find if these children actually reach, for example, like Form 6, they end up going to sell maize, right? Because this we're talking about people with basically no money. They go and sell maize, right? You're going to go study all those 6 years of high school, then go take up a course that you would have actually studied in this BTVET, right? Secondly, even their teachers are always on, right? Basically, even when we are to consider UCE current status quo, it has shown that it has completely failed, right? It is not favoring the people who would benefit from it. That is why we come and give you a better solution that caters for the main stakeholder, right? They come and tell us that no, it does not prioritize people who are going to do lawyers or doctors or something of that be attained on their side. It can't be attained on our side of the house. But Pano, it's even worse on their side of the house, right? Note that these people are actually poor. That is why they go for free education. The only way you're going to become a lawyer or a doctor is to go graduate in university. Where is this money coming from? There is basically no money, right? So university is more expensive than what BTV would actually have offered it. So even on their side of the house, they cannot guarantee us that lawyers and doctors are actually going to come into place, right? Stakeholder analysis. Before that, POI 3, 2, 1. Okay, since I agree with everything we're saying so far, who are the main stakeholders in this debate? Firstly, we get the students, right? Speaker, you're breaking, you cannot be heard. Let's talk how it benefits the children, right? First of all, how does it benefit? Speaker, I can't hear you. First of all, how does it benefit these children, right? We give them okay. We give them a policy that actually helps benefit them, right? Something that they are going to go study, something that is more of that where they something that is actually more likely to happen, right? Give them going to help them basically if they want to go into carpentry or anything, basically things that we find in their capacity, right? We feel on the outside of the house much easier to attain it. Why then does this not happen with their side of the house? First of all, understand that UCE has so many subjects, right? You learn right panel in the sense that in the event that you have so many things there, most of them may not be beneficial to you. What does this mean? This child is going to go study UCE up to Form 6, basically spend over 6 years learning something that they're actually not going to benefit them, things that are actually not benefiting them. Why? Because you study history, but then you want to become a doctor, right? What happens after this? Some of their parents, remember that some of their parents are actually uneducated, right? They're going to feel like, this one is go and marry them off, right? When you have BTVET when you have BTVET, you enable them to learn a practical skill that will at least earn them income that they can use to probably support their little sisters or brothers who they can actually take to a private school to actually study. I believe that's how the world works, right? So on our side of the house, we help this kid to get an income, because right now the issue is money, right? We help them to get, we have a system that helps them actually to get money to make them more self-reliant, right? On their side of the house, they have to, because their side of the house even takes a longer time to actually, for example, becoming like
Can you,
lawyer.
yes,
Yes.
can you conclude your speech? Your time is already up.
Oh god. So the state is going to produce, the state is going to invest in a system that produces a good labor force. This labor force is going to contribute greatly into the economy, like the goals we gave you in first speech, right? So with all this panel vote for a side that really caters for them, right? That has their best interest. Vote for a side that's going to go waste this guy's time. Moreover, they will even go back to what BTVET would have offered. And with all this, proud to propose.
Okay. Thank you very much. The next speaker, Businje. Businje Martha, are you in the house?
Yes, I am. Am I audible?
Yes, please. I'm going to request you to be a bit faster, yeah? As soon as you see the timer beginning, please start. We can hear you. Don't check in with sound. I think everyone can hear you. All right, please go ahead.
Okay. So, panel, what do we get from side? What do we get from side proposition? They come and tell us things like Uganda is okay. Like most people that go for USE are people in the rural areas, and most the common jobs that are there are these jobs of maybe like carpentry and maybe making tailoring, baking and what. But then the question we want to ask, so with all the numbers, we've had complaints of, having very many people, very many students in USE classes. So if we now abandon financing USE classes and whatever, and then they're now going for this vocational studies, and so all of them are learning things like carpentry, bakery, tailoring, so that is going to make something like increased number of people doing such jobs. And so that also brings up people. There is going to be high competition, and so you find some people not really gaining from what they
Point
even
of
learned.
information.
Be getting denied. They're just going to be doing. Why should we accept a country where all that we are producing are just lawyers? We are just producing bakers, carpenters, and whatever, tailors. That's all we are producing. What we bring to you inside proposition mainly is we are not supposed to abandon financing USE. What we are supposed to do mainly is to try to improve USE, because just because someone does not have the potential, or does not have the money to what is it called, to mainly go to a private school for secondary education, doesn't mean that they can never become lawyers, or doesn't mean that they can never perform well. Because right now in status quo, we have both USE and also we also have vocational studies, and people are still going to this school. So that is the status quo we are having. Those that want to go to USE, what we feel like the government should do is kind of try to improve USE studies. It should just try to improve that, rather than just abandoning, because we cannot just live into a country where we are only producing carpenters, bakers, and tailors. Yet, with USE, we've still seen lawyers, doctors, and whatever still coming from USE schools. So you cannot just come and tell us that, yes, there are people that fail, but we still feel like the government has to come and step in and add more financing to USE. So here they come and tell us that it is kind of easier to finance vocational studies than USE. But what makes them, what makes them so confident that the government is not going to do the same mistakes that it has been doing in USE than the ones that it has been doing in USE, and not take them to also BTV to vocational, and then after still make the same mistakes, still produce substandard children, like you're only producing carpenters and whatever. So your POI taken. POI 1.
You keep on telling us how the government should improve on them, but you do not give us any clear mechanism of how the government is going to do it, and you don't even tell us where they're even going to get that one.
Okay, so I was still in my speech. So number one, to improve this, we can incentivize that the government should add in more, practicals into, to add in more practicals in the USE thing. Is like we've seen the government trying to stop this, bringing in a new curriculum that requires children to use their brain, or to use their common sense, or to even do things practically, you understand? So we see that the government is trying to bring in a new curriculum and everything. So if it can maybe put in more funding, that children are going to use their common sense, children are going to be able to put whatever they learn into practice. With this, we can feel like USE is going to thrive. And also increasing like on the salary of teachers, so that they can be incentivized to go back and teach these students. So we're teaching these students, and also making it like a safe environment for these USE students to continue studying. And also, like when they win, sometimes these people are also given scholarships to continue to other schools. So with with vocational, yes, they're telling us, yeah, we are going to go study carpentry. All of them are all studying like the same thing. So if they are maybe going into the job market and whatever, they are all producing the same thing. What is still going to be the difference? We see basically here, what we see is that the country is going to one day need more doctors. The country is going to need more engineers. Is it going to go to other countries to kind of bring them into Uganda to start working? We need engineers and doctors from this country, from Uganda. And so when these people also thrive, they can
please
go
wind
back
up.
into
Please wind up. You're in your last 15 seconds.
Okay, basically, and we are not, this side proposition has to prove to us that the government is not going to do the same mistakes it has done with USE, and not bring them into the vocational studies.
Okay, thank you very much, Businje Martha. Can we have Team Pretoria, the third speaker?
Okay, I'll take my POIs in the chat. If you unmute, I will not take
Businje Martina.
Yeah, can you hear me?
As soon as you see the timer, please begin, yeah?
Okay, yeah.
All right.
3, 2, 1. I know what the previous speaker said is, we need engineers and doctors. Not that just because we are abandoning USE, it doesn't mean that private schools aren't going to be there. They're still going to be there. We're still going to get engineers and doctors. But also, do not that they have neglected everything I've given you from past speech. We tell you that even if USE stays there, they're still not going to get these engineers and doctors, because most of these people don't even afford to go to university. I wonder how you're going to become a But now let's look at this. Let's look at their alternative. They say we should improve USE. One, they do not give us any metric. It's only when my first speaker asks them that they just remembered like the last few minutes. Or we can give them mob funding, as I quote. But first of all, ask yourself, where are they going to get this money from? The reason why USE is failing is because they do not have this money. I think it's going to be pretty late for third speaker to come and tell us where they get this money from. They had the chance in first and second speaker, they did not use it. So they have already failed in giving us an alternative. What is the problem in this debate? The debate problem poses this. One, we tell that USE is something we should abandon because of two reasons. One, the poor education system, which requires a lot of financing. Not that because Uganda's education system isn't that strong because we do not invest as much. It requires both theory and practical. Once you fail to invest in one, the other side just doesn't stand out on its own. This is why we see teachers resorting to making children cram in schools. Okay, at the end of the day, this is the reason why most people resort to going and studying from outside country, because that's where they actually invest in both theory and practical. Opposition should not base their debate in a developed country. This is a developing country whereby we do not have enough funds to invest in, whereby we do not have enough funds to invest in both theory and practical. They should be realistic. But then also too, we tell you poverty of some people. We find it clearly unrealistic as to how they're going to magically get jobs and civic responsibility with only a USE certificate. We tell you that in order to get these jobs which they claim they want to get, you first need to go to university. The majority of the people who go for USE are people who can't even afford secondary education. So please tell me how they're going to afford university tuition. They do not tell us that in first and second speech. I wonder how third speaker is going to bring it up, but even if she does, it's already pretty late. Now let's look at which side addresses social mobility and structural inequality better. We tell you from first speech, one, less money is spent in our world. Why? Because it's only based on a practical system, okay? So we see less money is going to be spent by the government. This is beneficial in a sense that the education system will be developed, okay? But then also too, we see that there are higher chances of success because of exposure. Given that in the communities are obviously dominated by practical businesses. What does this mean? This means that if you go to school and you learn carpentry, you can come back home in the community and practice it out. In that side of the house, I don't even know how you're going to come out in the community and practice chemistry. Not everybody has that privilege like you. But then also three, we say that there are high chances of job opportunity because of the job market. Not that because of the dominant history about how missionaries first introduced a practical jobs. The practical jobs are dominant in African societies, in African communities. So we tell that there are higher chances of job opportunities compared to their world, whereby apparently in every single community, including rural areas, there are engineering companies, there are clinics that will just like magically give people jobs who haven't even attained university certificates. Now let's go to their side of the house. They say that social mobility and structural inequality is better because apparently labor quality is better. Not that one, it's not assured that they're going to get a job with just USE. Okay, I wonder which engineering firm is just going to give you a job because they're presented USE. We tell you on our side of the house, you're better able to get a job because all you need to do is just go to like the institution that we have already demonstrated and you're better able to get a job. In fact, in our side of the house, you have the potential and the ability to actually start up your own business. I wonder how on their side of the house, with just a USE certificate, you're going to start your own engineering firm. You're going to start your own clinic. But also too, we tell you that, we create a world whereby potential. We create a world whereby we have potential to start our own businesses and we do not require a lot of capital. This is beneficial, especially for rural areas, especially for people who cannot afford USE. It's easier for you to just buy your sewing machine and actually start your business. This goes and touches directly with the point. Now it will take me to the point of what first speaker brings about how, if we take away USE, if we abandon USE, we're going to deny some children the chance, or like those who really wanted to attain USE to go. We already give you an alternative from first speech. We will give an incentive to private schools to give these free children scholarships. But let me also note, the reason why people are so many in USE is because it's free. I mean, if I'm giving out free food, many people are going to come. If we give out free institutional education, many people are going to go there as well. This just doesn't stand in the debate. We show you how we give you alternative. And entrepreneurship. B, more chances of success, but then also C, we give you choice. Individuals have the ability to choose what they want. Either I choose hairdressing or I choose tailoring. Compared to that side, but you have so many subjects which you might not even have enough money to pursue further in education. That side of the house, what did they give us? We gave you civic responsibilities and international relations. These people do not even.
We lost you. Is Martina still here? Martina, we can't hear you. Martina, can you wind up? Martina, we can't hear you. Hello,
Let me try
Raima? Is Martina here?
I'm getting her right now.
Okay. Her time was done as well. I don't know if we can proceed. Are you getting in touch with her? Okay,
Just
I
a
think.
bit.
Is she here? Hello? Should we proceed? I feel like she had made her point, or should she finish? Yes, you are. Martina, can you text maybe if you can't talk? Businje? People, we have to be a bit fast. We have to be ending by 4:45, yeah? Can Martina text? Can she type her submission? Halima Semuju, are you there?
Yes, I am present.
You're present, eh? Okay, I think you should take the floor. Martina, when Martina comes on, I think she'll type what she wanted to say. Who the coach, the patron of Team Pretoria, I hope that will work, yeah? Okay, so Halima. She was left with 15 seconds. Okay.
Okay.
So Halima, the floor
my
is
name
yours.
Okay, my name is Halima Semuju, third op speaker, and I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. Panel. Opposition's entire case has been based on the assumption of the goals of the opposition being for people to go to university. That might be desirable, but what is realistically needed in this house tonight is to increase the literacy rate in a country like Uganda. First, I'll cite two examples. Countries like the US and the UK, where the education system is really improved and education is almost free, have high literacy rates and have better quality labor force. How is this important? Countries that have a better quality labor force, and this speaks for itself, developed countries like Germany, where education is nearly free, having a skilled labor force, it means that they don't have to import people like doctors, lawyers. And they said, since, they said we can't attain having doctors at the end of the day. See, this is how the opposition brings this argument to you. If we are increasing the likeliness of people to complete USCE, right, senior 6, it means we're increasing the number of people that can actually make it to universities. Those who can afford. Sorry, I got lost for a second there, but let me continue. Panel, I'm going to divide my speech into a comparative analysis of the case of the negative and the affirmative and why the negative wins this debate, right? The reality is the solution needed in this debate is to provide incentive for students to complete education and register high literacy rates, right? Let us take them at their best, the proposition, right? That many people opted to have vocational studies, right? Then what kind of labor force do we have, right? It means we're going to have more bakers, carpenters, and other professions, that require vocational skills, which might not be bad, but is that essential? In countries like Uganda, where we have to construct roads and import labor, is that the kind of system that we want, where we're just increasing likeliness of being dependent on other countries? And I do not think that that is the goal of government tonight. In our system, we are providing incentives, right, for government to improve standard of education. The solution is not diverting resources to another system. It is improving the current system. How is this going to be possible, right? Governments have an incentive, and they fail to tell us how governments have an incentive to divert money to that sector, which is considered undesirable by most people. Why? The stereotypes surrounding jobs such as being a chef, being a carpenter are existing. So even though that service was availed, what incentive, first of all, do parents have to send their children there? What incentive do students have to opt for that? And what incentive do governments have to consider that side, which is actually not considered desirable, which means that they're not going to be attaining any results at the end of the day? No. Important to understand is diverting resources to vocational studies does not solve the problem of increasing people that actually go to school. They talk about structural differences, right? And instead, they are trying to say that the poor people must be bakers, poor people must be carpenters because they can't afford secondary education. I think that is not good, right? Panel, what we are saying is that instead, if government changes the dynamic of funding USCE, we register more results. And that's what the opposition brings to you. We are saying that governments will pay utilities in schools and fund teachers' salaries. How is this going to work, right? It means that parents are only covering essentials of students, which means that there is more opportunity for people, even who are poor, to be able to access, right, USCE education, right? And they're saying that in USCE, teachers are not coming, but what incentive do they have that if we advocate or if we go for vocational studies, that teachers are going to be there in schools? Teachers will want to go to village schools. They give us no dynamic. On our side, we give you an incentive, right? If we are improving and providing suitable conditions that motivate teachers to go to school, such as giving them good salaries, right? Paying utilities, it increases the students who can afford secondary education, right? Most government institutions pay partial secondary education, right? They pay partially the fees of government institutions, right? So if we make it more affordable to a great majority of people, including people in rural areas who are poor, it means we also increase their chances of having desirable jobs, right? And that's even about desirable jobs. Our goal is increasing literacy, right? The S6 certificate is the most important certificate and the most requested for when getting a job. You might not be a lawyer, but you might be able to get a job in the office, right? As a secretary, as a clerk, right? Even people who are poor, right? And that is the reality that the opposition is bringing to you tonight, right? Panel, in case where the proposition fails to give us incentive for people to opt for this system, incentive for government to invest in this system because it will register no results, and how they are going to remove structural stratification,
You have 5
yet they are
seconds
making
left. Please conclude your speech, Halima.
yet they are making jobs such as carpentry for the poor who can't afford, and fail to make education attainable for those who are poor. They fail to win this debate, and with that, I'm proud to oppose. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Congratulations to you all. Now we are going to have the reply speeches. So, for Team Pretoria, your reply spokesperson is Nimusima Tracy. Nimusima, please take the floor. As soon as you see the timer, you begin. Hello? We can't hear her. Eh? Okay. Raima. Raima, the coach, please what's happening to Nimusima? If Tracy is not here, can we have Raima? So what do we do? Can you who? Raima? Can you Iron Man for Tracy? Pardon? Can I what? Can you speak a bit louder? Yes, now I can. Mhm. Huh? Okay, Tracy, you ready? Tracy? Tracy. Okay, Tahinduka. I don't think we are going to wait any longer. We've waited for 5 minutes now. Can she hear us? Tracy, is it okay for you to type your submission if you can't talk? Because it's going to 6 minutes.
Um, um, my audible. Wait, what?
Tracy?
Is Tracy doing? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, I'm going to do reply. Could you give me a minute to just organize my notes? Just a
No, I
minute.
can't. Like you've taken now 10 minutes.
Okay.
Is it
Sorry.
possible for you to just talk?
Yeah, I'm going to start. Okay, let me start in 3, 2, 1. Panel, why does side opposition fall out of this debate today? First of all, what do we get from their side of the house? First of all, we come and get from the first speaker a mischaracterization of the model where they think that this BVET is only going to be like, let me say, carpentry and all that, and which we clearly characterized and we clearly stated very well in our first speech, where I came and characterized all this. Secondly, we get a miscontextualization from the other side of the house and a clarity problem where they come and tell us that I didn't do anything of it. I didn't even characterize anything, of which I clearly did, and I clearly stated USA. So moving on to other things that they tell us. Okay. First of all, they come and give us things and problems that are happening in the USC. They come and give us problems, and then they come and tell us that they have to improve the let me say the teacher's salary and all that from their second speech. But one thing that they fall out of this debate today is that they do not even tell us how they are going to do it, how they're going to improve the salaries of the teachers, all that. They we win this debate actually, because first of all, we come and we characterize this debate very well. We come and we give you a clear statement. We come and we give you a clear statement, and we
Yeah.
give you a clear way about how this BBET is actually going to work in this debate today and the model that we support. And then we come and we give you even what developing countries want, which the third speaker comes and tries trolling out of this debate, but which was true. And they try telling us that that's not what, let me say, developing countries want. But basically, that's what we actually give you. And true. Another reason why we win this debate, because first of all, we come and we give you 3 points of clarity. We give you 3 points and we answer 3 major points. Where we give you poor education systems in Uganda, where we give you different mechanisms on these points. And secondly, we give you points about poverty, about how majority of the government of the people in the country are actually below the poverty line, which they don't even extend in this debate today. Secondly, we even give you the success levels of our side of the house, which they do not actually do. They said Is time over? Okay, so basically we have
You're done.
yes, I raised my case by
Kindly conclude.
saying that
Hello.
I'm done.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm hoping that the reply speaker for the opposition side is having good network. Yeah. And Halima didn't write who was going to give the reply speech. So I think it's Agaba. Agaba, you set?
Yes, I am. I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. Panel, what do we get from Team Proposition tonight? Team Proposition continuously comes here, creating for us a world which is not actually feasible, a world that you cannot even live in practically, right? What do they tell us? They tell us, that with this with this vocational education, they're planning on creating more businesses. But even then, panel, for them to start up these businesses, it still requires capital, which is still expensive. And um which is versus which goes against what we are trying to tell you, via USE, whereby it's easy and people are able to readily get jobs because of this attained academic levels of achievement, right? For by that we mean the A-level certificates, for example, that are minimum requirements, as we told in our first speech. We further tell you that increasing chances for people we're increasing chances for people to join secondary school, which gives parents the incentive to take children to primary because they know that they can still access access secondary schools, right? Because with this with this universal secondary education, it's not only affordable for those who can, because it's broken down into two, private and public, right? So those who can access, who can pay money to access it, well and good, they're catered for. Those who can't still can access this education. How? Through the public schools, right? And the universal secondary education. And furthermore, when they as affirmative tell us that they're completely abandoning it, right? Meaning not even thinking about this other lesser population, right? Those who are less privileged, because now this universal secondary education is still able to cater for them, as I have just stated. So what danger lies in completely abandoning universal secondary education? We tell you in our second and third speech that this is increasing the overall rate of illiteracy in Uganda, right? And now we cannot deny the fact that we don't need each other to exist, right? We need both this USE education and this vocational education, right? Because we much as yes, but what does Team Affirmative try to tell us now? They tell us that we do not need any bit of like the intellectual part of labor in this Ugandan sector. We only need carpenters, we only need bakers, we only need seamstresses, which is not quite the reality, panel. So therefore, we still believe that Team Negative takes this case because, one, we not only cater for both parts of for both the privileged and less privileged, but we also create a more feasible world whereby those who are yes privileged are catered for and those who are less privileged are catered for. We cater for people, we're giving rise to better quality education for people to become to improve the quality of labor in this country, in the economy. Therefore, with that, Team Negative deserves to take this case. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You're going to give us time so that me and Tafumba, Rachel, my co-judge,